What's going on? It's your main man, Rick the Dawn. Hey, what's going on, y'all? So it's your main man, Rick the Dawn, and I am here to talk Married at First Sight. Thank you for watching. All right, so this episode is brought to you by reallyhood.com and the Really Hood podcast, available everywhere. Check it out. All right, so this episode definitely centers on a lot of what Shaquille and Kirsten were going through, and it definitely is a good time to ask a question. So we are now in the year 2023, and the standards for marriage and dating has definitely taken a turn. But the question still remains: should we as people still be following some of those traditional constructs or those traditional tenets? And what I mean by that is, chivalry. I think that's what they used to term it. But even more so than that, when we're talking about the relationship between a husband and wife, should the husband be buying the house, paying every bill? Should the wife be, the sole provider for the children, and having the children, keeping the children, getting up in the middle of the night, the father sleeping? Those old-fashioned tenets, should they still be in play today? And I like this episode because it dealt a lot with that. And I'm so glad that you're here because I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. So I'm hoping that you can provide some insight. And I don't want to be disrespectful to either side. That's why I do these live streams, because I want to open up, debate. And, you're not here with me, but if you were, your comment would be in the comment section. I would read it and perhaps have a conversation about it. But I will say this before I get into the linear process of looking at every couple's trajectory and progress. I will just go out there and say that I think Shaquille alluded to my perspective about this question. Is or was Kirsten being traditional or spoiled? I'm going to err on the side of spoiled. And I think she would also agree. And here's why: because at some point in this episode, she talks about how her father would basically take care of everything for their mother, and take care of everything with regard to the children. So when you hear that, it's hard not to hear daddy spoiled Kirsten and company. And I don't want to sound rude, but what I wanted to tell Kirsten the entire time is, hey, your father utilized that strategy or that mindset or that particular set of actions. How far did it get him? And in asking that question, I would not be trying to be rude, but I am a strong believer in, you know, make sure that if you're following somebody or you're inspired by somebody, that you're prepared to receive the consequences and or the outcomes that they receive. So if Kirsten is saying, my father did it this way, and then in the second breath, Kirsten is saying, my father and my mother divorced, there is room to argue that that way of handling things is not correct. There's room for that. That's a fair argument, in my opinion. If you're telling me, hey, so this guy, he invested in this stock, and it's like in the second breath, he went bankrupt. It's like, well, I don't want to invest in that stock. So it's like with Kirsten, I wanted to say, Kirsten, okay, your father basically pampered his children and gave them everything and then paid for everything. But then it ended in divorce. And perhaps, just maybe, the real issue was he was not comfortable. He was not happy. And I'll even go even further and say maybe mom wasn't happy just taking care of the children. Maybe mom wanted to go out and, when I look at my wife, she just could not be a traditional wife. And there is nothing wrong with either side of the spectrum, in my opinion. There's nothing wrong with a woman who wants that role. And I certainly don't believe there's something wrong with a woman who does not want that role. And vice versa for men. Some men, it makes them feel like a man to provide everything. Some men are like Shaquille, kind of like, look, man, it's a new day. But no, so that's what aids this episode, because I'm not sure where people stand on this. I know that this is a very heavy topic and a lot of people have different perspectives. And I'm happy to be someone who actually asks this question. Are traditional values outdated? Are traditional ways of doing things no longer valid? Or do they need to come back? Big question. But Kirsten definitely lays it on heavy, and I could not tell whether or not she was serious or if she was playing. I could not tell, or it was some combination of the two, where she's just throwing some things out just to see how he reacts. Now I know now at this very tender age that women often test their man, and growing up, I wish I would have known that. I knew it, but I didn't know it, if that makes sense. But women test their man in so many different ways just to see how they react. And I even heard, and this is crazy, but I even heard that women will bring down or intentionally bring down the ego of their man by doing certain things or saying certain things that they know will bring down said ego. So yeah, I don't want to go too crazy here because obviously I got a whole like other couples to talk about, but that's the question that aced this episode, and please sound off. But before I give my definitive viewpoints on that, I would definitely like to get back to the schedule here. First off, we have Chris and Nicole. This episode certainly showed some growth there, and I have to just jump right in and say Chris constantly looks unsettled. He looks very uncomfortable. He's saying all the right things. She's saying all the right things, but I cannot deny what I'm seeing. It's like my ears and my eyes are not in agreement. My ears say that this couple is beautiful together. My eye test tells me that Chris is incredibly uncomfortable. This entire episode, in my opinion, his eyes look watery, his face look red, as if he just wanted to say something, or he was dealing with some type of internal battle that he wanted to spew out, but maybe he didn't want to make Nicole uncomfortable. What do you think? Is it me reading too much into it? Is Chris genuinely happy? And in this episode, we saw that Nicole divulged some information from her past about some of the things that she used to do, the type of person she used to be. And Chris, much to my understanding, or I should say expectations, he states that I would not be able to be married to the older version of Nicole. And my initial reaction to that was, wow, Chris, that's a little like relax. She's just telling you her past. It just seems like every time Nicole opens her mouth, Chris responds in, I couldn't be with that, or if this happens, it's over, or I can't live with this kind of person. It's like, bro, relax. I don't understand. It's like, is it just me that sees that? Because I see that. And Nicole, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but she seems to be the more level-headed of the two. She doesn't judge Chris like Chris judges her in terms of, hey, it's a deal or no deal situation, or it's my way or that. Chris is micro aggressive. Is that a word? I feel like I just made up something. Did I? Somebody tell me. I feel like Chris is micro aggressive. He's not like masculinity aggressive, go sit there and like he's very timid, and that that level of timidness can make someone else feel like they're doing something wrong. And that is a weird way of controlling somebody. Like, I'm not going to directly tell you something, but I'm going to tell you all the things I don't like very nicely, which is going to keep you in a corner. And that's how I feel about that couple. All right. So next, moving on to Airris and Jasmine. So this couple, they're constantly fluctuating. And one thing I really dislike is that now Airris has the cards. Airris has finally he's finally right about something. Initially it was Jasmine saying that she really wanted to open up to Airris, and then Airris didn't want to have real conversations. But now Jasmine is starting to act as if she doesn't really want to talk about certain things, or I'll keep it light so I don't get too emotional, which indicates that she doesn't want to have deep conversation. And that is all that Airris needed to hear, because now it's like, well, I'm trying to have these deep conversations, but she doesn't want to talk about anything. And it's like, Airris, the one thing that you may be negating is the fact that when she was ready, you were not. And, she's not a robot. So when she was trying to have those deep conversations and you were not trying to have them, that turned her off. And even though she still admitted, even in this episode, that she's physically attracted to him, she also said to a friend that she's growing out of attraction to him because I like this because Jasmine, according to her own words, is she's not a person who puts all 10 coins, 10 of 10 coins into the looks box. Whereas Airris appears to do that very thing. She says, hey, you can just be cute or decent looking, or how about this? It's not even how you look that makes me attracted to you. It's about how you make me feel. So Jasmine is looking for, different things than what Airris is providing. And because Airris is not making Jasmine feel safe, as I've already stated, she's growing out of love with him or growing out of like or out of attraction with him. But there's a but. I do want to say this. Airris is starting to win me over marginally. He's doing things that makes me feel as if he's trying. And that lies, or there lies another question. Is Airris maturing and growing, or is it a act? Now, you may have seen this, you may not have seen this, but I was reading something, and apparently Airris revealed to Jasmine that he slept with one of her best friends. And I'm just confused as to why that hasn't aired yet. I'm not sure if I saw a spoiler or if I saw something that's going to come out. I don't know what I know that it happened because even Jasmine confirmed it as she was talking. And I don't know what I was watching. I might have just been on the blog site and just kind of popped up. But that's what happened. Airris slept with one of Jasmine's friends. And I'm not sure if that has come out yet or if it's come out a long time ago. And this might explain some of their uneasiness on camera because you can see the uneasiness between the two people. But that happens, and I also saw this, and I think this picture is making its way around the internet where Jasmine got her bottom row teeth fixed. So that's obviously something from the future. So I know that for a fact. I just saw like some kind of Instagram post, but I'm still not happy with this couple. I did pick this couple to stay married, and more I'm starting to realize it's very unlikely. And last week, I asked a very, very interesting question in my opinion, and it is: did these couples get mixed up? All right, would Airris better fit with Kirsten and Shaquille with Jasmine? We got to see a little of that, and I know when they showed that on the show, whoever watched my last week's reaction probably thought about me immediately, like, "Oh, Rick was on to something," and I didn't watch the future episode when I made that episode. I had no idea they was going to do that, but it was great timing, right? And I have to ask the question again because that episode was a little choppy. Would Kirsten and Airris make a better couple? Would Jasmine and Shaquille make a better couple? And I looked around, and a lot of people who responded to that question said the following. Basically, Shaquille would work with just about anybody, especially these two. Basically, Airris would not, because he just doesn't have the relational maturity that it takes to be a husband. And that's the basic sentiment across the board. And as far as my understanding, or at least my take on it, is I think Airris and Kirsten would work better than Jasmine and Airris. And I'm going to go even further. I also think that this is going to be controversial, but I think that Kirsten and Airris would work better than Shaquille and Kirsten, because this episode showed why, and I'll talk about it later. But anyway, that is essentially all that I need to talk about with this couple. Again, not much movement. They seem to be stagnant. I did like Airris divulging some information about his father. And, there's a lot there when it comes to Airris. He has a lot of baggage. And I think this episode shows us that he has a lot of attachment issues in terms of his father passing, being someone who moved around a lot. We saw a lot of that. And now I understand why Airris is the way he is, why he thinks the way he thinks. It's because of some of the things he's gone through as a child. And, I've had enough. This episode, more than ever, made me think of this very thing. And maybe you've been thinking the same thing. I'm tired of Airris putting Jasmine down over her looks. Okay? Because, wait for it, because Airris and Jasmine look alike to me. Seriously. They look like the male. Like if you told me, and I know the age difference doesn't align to my point, but if you told me they were siblings, I would be like, oh, okay, I can see that. They look alike to me. So it's like with Airris, is like, listen, if you don't think Jasmine is attractive, then you're not saying much about yourself. Because to me, they look similar. And this is why I said stay together when I first saw them on screen together. I'm like, yo, they both cool, they both relax, and they kind of resemble each other just a tad bit, right? But that's not the way the Airris sees it. All right, next couple I would like to talk about is Clint and Gina. Now, I'm going to just continue to ask this question. What is Gina looking for? I'm really struggling to understand what this woman needs to be happy. I don't, can somebody help me? I'm like the only, am I the only person who doesn't know what Gina is asking for in a husband? I don't get it. I don't know. I've been trying to figure it out. I don't know what she wants. And, I have to just take a moment to say, Clint, I know he would never see this, but Clint, you are doing it. You're doing it, brother. This guy is bending. If bending over backwards was a person, he would look like Clint. Okay? Because he's doing everything he possibly can. He's being kind. He's being understanding. He's listening. He's smiling when he probably wants to cry. The real Clint we haven't seen in like 3 or 4 episodes because Gina has such an adverse reaction to what Clint stated on the honeymoon that he's now nervous to even be himself. He can't even say what he wants to say because he's fearful that what he says will create the second wrath of Gina. So now we're seeing this shelled version of Clint, and it's so unnatural. But I will say this. Gina is starting to make some come around. She's starting to show bits and pieces of interest. But it's my opinion that she's not on this show for love because if she was, then I think more opportunities given to Clint by Gina. I just don't see it. Now, you can make the great case. Yes, Clint's statements were atrocious, but probably warranted. But they were atrocious. Let's stick with that. Maybe Gina is not attracted to him. But it's called married at first sight. So for Gina to have that reason in terms of attraction be the reason why she's not engaged, that's a little selfish because you came on a show called Married at First Sight, which tells me that you knew that you could potentially not find this person attractive. And I'll put it out there. I think Clint is very well managed. All right, let me backtrack a little bit. I think Clint could be very well managed. And it's interesting because he's with a beautician or a salon manager. And that's the exact person that Clint needs. I mean, literally. And I'm surprised this hasn't come up yet. Like, Clint was in the room with about 6 beauticians. And not one of them, at least aloud, said, hey, you know, we can do your hair. We can fix you up. Like, as a joke, but really he needs a makeover. He's definitely rocking the 80s look, loud and proud. He needs a makeover, and he could not be with a better person. This person he's with has connections to all type of beauticians who can give him a renew. I think if Clint renewed his look to look more modern, because he looks post-modern. I don't know. He looks pre-modern. I don't know what he looks. He looks just archaic. But if he used one of those resources, I think Clint would have it going on, man. Especially at age 40, he seems to be fit. But anyway, I just did not like what I saw this episode in terms of Clint bending over backwards. When Gina invites her friends over to the house and Clint is just putting on a show. First off, the guy is outnumbered. It's like 1 guy to 6 women. And we're not talking about 6, seasoned, mature women. We're talking about 6 gossipy women. They said it themselves. Don't judge me. They said it themselves. They said it because Clint asked, what do you do at the salon? And they said themselves, well, we gossip and we talk about what's hot and we talk about the tea and all that. So he used to lose that hands down. But Clint represented himself and Gina so well that no one even noticed that he was by himself. This guy is doing everything right. And it's okay. You want to know why it's okay? Because some woman watching this is going to say Gina is unpleasable because women know women better than anybody. Nobody can read a woman like another woman. Somebody's going to say, Gina is not possible to please, and Clint is a good guy. And they're going to go snatch Clint up via Instagram DMs. Watch. Watch. Next couple I want to talk about is Shaquille and Kirsten. Whew. All right. Save the best one for last. So first, to answer my question, do I think Kirsten is being spoiled or traditional? If I'm being honest, and if I'm being my true self, it's obviously spoiled. Kirsten has grown accustomed to getting whatever she wants from her looks, and her father is the initiator of that. It is my belief that, and I'm going to my second question. As far as marriage is concerned, should marriages proceed in a traditional manner or a more modern manner where, there's like a hybrid style or a woman can work, blah, blah, blah? Which one would I agree with more? And the answer is simple. It depends on the relationship. It depends on the couple. I think that a couple of any caliber trying to mirror what someone else is doing is already fighting a losing battle. You have to do what works for your situation. And let me just put it out there. um, Kirsten alluded to having Shaquille buy a house for her. And there lies the answer. She didn't say, hey, can you buy a house for us? Can you buy a house for our future family? She said, can you buy a house for me? And that shows you that she's spoiled, potentially vindictive, because it makes it sound like she wants to get a house, and then she wants to divorce this guy and keep the house. That's the vibes I got. I'm sorry, I can't ignore the vibes. And I'm thinking to myself, look, this is crazy. And Shaquille initially didn't push back hard enough. He didn't do so until he had some time to reflect and really digest what Kirsten was proposing. And after such time had passed, he said, he kind of came back to it. And you can tell that this situation was bothering him the entire time. All right. I think the show took place over an entire week. And over the entire week, you could just see Shaquille just steaming over Kirsten's expectations. But I think that when it comes to this type of topic or debate, it really depends on the couple themselves. It really, look at both people's situations. What best serves that couple? To me, that's the only answer. All right, because there are modern women who are blowing the socks off of men in terms of financial stability, financial prowess. That is the new day and age. We are long gone from the time when women had no voice, had no say so, had no way to surpass a male. We're just not in that time frame. I mean, I think if you look at college statistics, women are graduating at a higher clip than men are. Like, women are kicking butt right now. This, in my opinion, and this might be controversial, but I would argue that we are in the age of the woman. Like, seriously, I think this is the most dominant time period by women. Right now, we're living in it. Serious. Like, women are commanding much higher salaries. They're just taking over. And I think it's due to years of suppression. You know, men have been riding high without much effort, and women have been being suppressed while working their hardest. And I think at some point the rubber band just kind of fell off, and now women just catapulted up. And I think over time, it will correct where men will have to step the game up, and the reverse shall happen. I think men will start to look at it like, wait a minute, I'm getting outdone by my, and that's just going to create a situation because men are very competitive, and they're going to try to figure it out. But that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter today. I think women are kicking guys' butt on average. Okay, on average. But you certainly saw Shaquille very uneasy about this question, and I thought it was super unfair of Kirsten to put this pressure on her. And I'll tell you why I say that. First off, Kirsten is comparing her husband to her father. This is something that is just going to happen. And I'll even go as far as to say that men do this all the time as well, comparing their wife to their mother. And I think both are wrong because there's just no comparison, right? And if there is some comparison, it takes a long time to get there. All right. It takes a long time for a man to be on par or even surpass a woman's father. Let me just tell you, it takes a long time. And vice versa. It takes a very long time for a man to admit that a woman has eclipsed his mother in terms of importance. It takes a long time to do that. And what Kirsten is doing is she's placing the weight of the world on the shoulders of her husband, and there's not a lot of foundation there to support it. Now, if we're talking about 5 years, 10 years in the game, then maybe these demands will make more sense. But what Shaquille is probably struggling with is, you want me to buy you a house, but you can't even, consummate the marriage with me, for example. So you're ready to do this because it involves financial financial situations, but you're not willing to do this because that would feel too much like commitment. To this point, we don't know if they consummated the marriage. I think Kirsten pointed out that if they did, they wouldn't tell. And I like that. I respect that. But I would imagine if they had not, then this is a issue. This is going to be something that's going to make Shaquille, kind of step back and say, wait a minute, she's really off her rocker. But that is how I feel about that situation. I still like the trajectory that Shaquille and Kirsten are on. I think they're definitely making positive strides. I like what Kirsten is doing in terms of how she's maturing and how she's starting to see things from a different viewpoint. And we also saw a really awesome moment between the two couples, or two or four couples, that being Kirsten and Shaquille, Jasmine and Airris, playing like some type of paintball gun fun activity. That was awesome to see. I did like that, and it definitely, in my opinion, created a positive bond between Kirsten and Shaquille. But that's all I want to divulge into at this moment. I think that certainly covers what I want to talk about. Please sound off in the comment section, or holler at me over at Facebook or wherever you found this video. Holler at me, and I'll be happy to hear your viewpoint on this crazy discussion. But until next time, thank you for watching.